Welcome to Rover Says, the podcast where we share stories about the weird and wonderful things animals say when they open up to pet psychics. I'm your host, Nancy Aziz.
He's a common goldfish, is what it's called, common or comet, and his name is Hoover. And in summer of 2017, I volunteered to babysit him and another his former tank mate who has since passed away, and an African dwarf frog for a family that was in between homes. And I just never gave them back. They sort of didn't want to deal with them, and I was so happy to keep everybody's.
That's how Tracy Blum, who had always been a dog-cat kind of girl, came to meet Hoover. She describes how she opened her home and her heart to him and two other aquatic friends.
So it wasn't just Hoover, it was, who else? Who else came to you?
So Hoover had a tank mate named Minnie, and then my original African dwarf frog, and his name is Pebble. And they were all in the same little tank together.
Okay.
And so I paid attention to them and fed them regularly, so then the goldfish started to grow.
So Tracy bought a bigger 15-gallon tank for the fish. Tracy admits she didn't know a lot about fish or frogs, but she was willing to learn.
Honestly, it was by the seat of my pants. I just said, okay, here's a filter, here's some food, and they seemed to thrive. So it was fun.
That was 7 years ago. Tracy fell in love with them all. Eventually, they passed away, except for Hoover. Then it was just Tracy and Hoover, and that's when they really bonded.
It was Hoover's time. He'd been very patient, and I was like, wow, here you are. I'm all yours, buddy. And it's been incredible. He's unbelievable. So I'm very proud, and I'm very honored that I can have this relationship with him.
Tell me about him and your relationship and what's so special about him and some of the things you guys do.
Well, he's very attentive, and he gets my attention when I know that when I'm feeling worried about him, or if he's too still for too long, or he'll all of a sudden dart around the tank kind of dramatically. He's very dramatic, and it's kind of his way of saying, okay, look, I'm doing fine.
Hoover, by the way, is now 8.5 inches long. He was about half that size when Tracy got him. Besides being communicative, Tracy says Hoover trusts her enough that she can feed him by hand.
He has in the past loved to eat out of my hands. He comes to the top of the tank and would eat pellets out of my hands. He's really fun.
Tracy says her favorite part of the day is in the evenings when she'll place her iPad where they both can see it and they watch together.
We watch movies together on my iPad. He loves Netflix. He stares at the screen. He reacts appropriately. Or if I have something on that he's not really into, he'll turn his back and look away. It's too much.
So what doesn't he like and what does he like to watch?
Well, it depends. If something's a little too flashy, or he loves crime dramas. He loves Sylvester Stallone, and most recently he loved the Netflix movie Naiad, about Diana Naiad, who swam from Cuba to Florida.
From above, you can see Naiad in crystal clear water as she got one stroke closer to the shore of Key West.
He's excited and happy.
That's audio from a video Tracy shot of Hoover watching the show.
So he was so focused on the very last scene. He watched the whole movie with me, but the very last scene when she was just making it to the Florida coast, and he swam around in the tank and went back to his seat, and he was like almost like cheering her on. He did that 2 times, and it was very intentional. And I've showed it to a lot of people, and they agree. It's not just me.
So he's physically staring at the screen and
yes,
in rapt attention.
100%.
I watched her video too, and it does seem like Hoover's watching.
100%. I know.
While Tracy can read the signs Hoover gives her about the evening's Netflix selections, she can't understand the signs about his health. Do they mean something, or are they insignificant? So when Hoover started thrashing around his tank, Tracy grew alarmed. She reached out to animal communicator Susan Vaughn, who'd been instrumental in helping her find answers when Tracy's African dwarf frog Buffy wasn't doing well.
Susan, do you remember the first time that Tracy called you about Hoover and what that was about and what the conversation was with you and Hoover?
I do believe I remember that time, and Hoover's thrashing about in the aquarium was concerning for Tracy. And one thing I remember that we've spoken about several times is that she would be concerned when he was still, and she would be concerned when he was thrashing about. So I asked him about that, and he said, you have to get pretty dramatic with Tracy. He says, you have to really put yourself out there so that she'll know you're interacting with her, that you care about her, that you enjoy the activities that you're doing with her. You have to be very demonstrative. And so that has been a Hoover theme, that he is the drama fish.
Since then, Tracy has called on Susan many other times to help find the answers she couldn't get anywhere else. Like, what did Hoover think about his food? Was his water clean enough? Did he miss his old friends? And what did he want in his tank?
He's really a good communicator, so he can send through emotions through my body that I can relate to Tracy. And he also has such an interesting personality, and he's taught me so many things. But one of them is that he loves changes in his tank. He's right there to explore it. What is this new plant? What is this new diver? What is these new little rocks? Oh, they're very colorful now. He loves to check out new things. He's all about his habitat. One of the most interesting, if you don't mind me sharing, that I had with Hoover was, him being a great teacher.
Mhm.
I didn't really have a lot of experience with aquatic animals. And I asked him, how do you explore your world? And shortly after that, Tracy sent me a picture of Hoover with his lips on the snails, checking them out. He had a new snail in there, and this is how he checked it out. In fact, he kind of, I wouldn't say rammed it, but he
Mhm.
came at it with his lips, and as he was swimming at it. He also showed me that he explored the snails by touching them with his fins, shortly after which Tracy produced a photo of his fin kind of caressing one of the snails. So he's really taught me how to be in an aquatic environment, how he experiences his world.
But often the sessions with Susan came from concerns about Hoover's health. As a 9-year-old goldfish, Hoover's up there in age, and it shows. Instead of the bright orange he used to be, he's practically all white now. And just like older humans, he's got cataracts and other ailments.
Start to see a film over his eye. I'm like, oh my God, is it a tumor? I just went to all kinds of places. No, it's okay. It's all, every time like everything's cool, then I realized it looked like a cataract, and it just it continues to change. And like the layers of whatever a cataract is some type of protein. It keeps, changing over his eye, but he seems completely fine. He may, and Susan can speak to what he says about that.
Hoover has a very casual approach to his body aging, falling apart, stuff falling off. He's like, oh, okay, yeah, that thing fell off. So I'll say, Hoover, how's your eye? He'll say, well, it feels like if there's sand in the eye. It's kind of annoying, but it's not painful. And so I'll say, can you show me the percentage that you can see? And he'll show me, and I'll think 20% or 50% or something like that. So I don't do any diagnostics, but I can do a few things, which is get into the animal's body and see what it feels like. See how I can see if I feel sluggish, see if I feel backed up. And with Hoover, same thing. So I would get in there and see what I could see and feel what I could feel in the body. And that's how it worked with how it continues to work with Hoover, but he's very casual guy. Like, I know I'm an elder. A few things are not working the way they used to. He's taught me a lot about grace in aging. The other thing that I found amazing from Hoover is that he is very grateful to be regarded with respect for his species, and with having a couple of people around that see how much more he is than, quote, just a fish or just a goldfish. He's very excited to interact with humans on a deeper level. And he's saying that about Tracy, and he'll throw me into the mix. I
Right.
think it's amazing that Hoover has really gone out of his way to let us know that he knows we're communicating with him. I mean, he changes his behavior. He runs
Yes.
around really fast in the tank, or he comes to the top of the tank when she's there to feed him, or he'll touch her finger, or he's done everything a goldfish can possibly do to let you know, I'm here with you. I'm here consciously with you. I'm looking at this movie with, oh, I see. You enjoy that. Let me see if I can enjoy that too.
Last year, Tracy had her biggest scare with Hoover yet.
For 2 weeks, he was very, very sick. One of my fish friends on Instagram said it could have been some type of bacterial infection, that he is like his whole body kind of got pink, and you could see like the almost like the arteries running through his translucent veins, and he just kind of stayed pretty still. He didn't eat, or he didn't poop for almost 2 weeks. And I was horrifically worried, obviously.
He told Susan he was struggling to stay down in the water.
Well, animal communication can't diagnose your animal's ailment,
Yep.
but it can tell you how your animal feels. Around that same time, we examined a lot of different things. We examined the water, the food, and we went through the food one by one. One of the foods she was feeding, he said, was a little bit rich. He didn't tell me that he had a bacteria, and I don't know that a fish could tell you a diagnosis
Exactly.
like that. He can
Right.
really just tell me, how does he feel? And he can show me if he thinks it's growing in the body or overtaking the body. He didn't have any of that.
Nothing really stood out as the answer, and Tracy prepared herself for the possibility she could lose Hoover. Then one day she says she got a sign. Everything would be okay.
I love Howard Stern, and apparently Hoover knows this. So I was worried. I was at work, and his pictures are at my office. I'm a physical therapist. He's always with me at my office in spirit.
The pictures in her office are of Hoover, not of Howard Stern, by the way.
He helps me with healing. He's telling me this guy's remarkable.
That day, Tracy had a patient who didn't show, and she decided to run a quick errand before her next one.
So I get in the car, and they play replays. This was on a Thursday. It wasn't a live show. I get in the car, and it's on Howard Stern, and he says, so the next thing we're gonna talk about rock bands that did ad jingles where they're famous. So he said, remember that, so here's Brian Johnson, who's the lead singer of AC/DC. Before he got into the band, he did an ad for Hoover vacuums. So Howard Stern, never in my life did I think Howard Stern would say Hoover at least 15 times in the span of 3 minutes. They played the clip of Brian Johnson singing the Hoover vacuum ad. Hoover was mentioned so many times, and I was laughing and almost crying so hard. It was like, that was Hoover's way of saying, just, it's going to be okay. No matter what, it's going to be okay. And I trusted that, and I couldn't believe my ears. And then I think that was around a Thursday. And then on Saturday, that weekend, my birthday was on Sunday. And so I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to be with him because I had to be at work all the time. And I was like, I'd worry about him. I couldn't wait to get home. And so on Saturday, my sister and mom came over, and my sister came up we hung out with Hoover. And this was like almost 2 weeks into him not eating. So we're playing with him, we're talking to him, and I thought, well, let me try to feed him his favorite worms, his bloodworms. So I got some bloodworms, and he ate. And we were both sort of freaking out, and he ate. And then the next day on my birthday, I woke up to him pooping in the tank, which was like the greatest birthday. You know what I mean? It was like, oh my God, this thing is resolving. So I don't know if it was a bacterial infection. Somebody said that that's what it could be, but it was just this thing that took me through all these range of emotions. And like, you know, you don't always have to go to the very end. You just trust the process, and it isn't necessarily going to be, you know, death or whatever. Just enjoy every moment. Yeah. And that's him.
And that's exactly what Tracy intends to do. Enjoy more moments with her one-of-a-kind goldfish, which means a lot more Netflix. She says Hoover is constantly an inspiration, and he shows all animals can communicate with us when we just open our eyes.
Tracy, I just wanted to say, is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you'd like to talk about?
I think we touched on, you know, most all of what we need to. I just love him, and I'm just, you know, I'm in awe.
And he loves you too.
Oh yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah, it's too special. So yeah, makes me happy.
Thanks so much for listening to Rover Says. If you like the show, please rate it and share so other people who want to know how animals really think can find us. And we'd like to hear from you. Tell us what your animals are telling you or what they've told animal communicators. We drop new episodes every other Wednesday.